Hello everyone, let us take up the next point under drug induced toxicity, that is carcinogenicity. Okay, so as we have seen that certain drugs may be causing some adverse effects, right? So though we are using it for therapeutic purposes, they may themselves also be responsible for some adverse reactions. Okay, so we had started with the drug induced toxicity. We have covered the genotoxicity and mutagenicity in the earlier lecture. So we shall take up the next point, that is carcinogenicity. Okay. So let us go through what exactly carcinogenicity means before going into the actual mechanisms and the examples of substances which are responsible for carcinogenicity. Okay, so coming to the definition of carcinogenicity. Carcinogenicity, it is the ability or the capacity of a drug or any chemical substance to cause a cancer. Okay, so nowadays we know that the prevalence of cancer, this is quite a serious global issue. The growth of cases of cancer is quite devastating. So we come across a huge figures wherein people are suffering from cancer, the different types of cancer, wherein the different organs may be involved or different tissues may be involved. Okay, now let us focus on how exactly this carcinogenicity can take place when certain drugs are administered, or what are the different mechanisms by which this carcinogenicity can be developed. Okay, now usually under the metabolism of the drug, we have seen that the major process of metabolism is the oxidation. Okay, so there are two main types of reactions which are involved in the metabolism of drugs. Okay, certain drugs may get metabolized, some drugs may not get metabolized, or certain drugs get partly metabolized. So under metabolism we have seen that there are two types of reactions, phase 1 and phase 2 reactions. And under phase 1 reaction, oxidation is the most important type of reaction wherein most of the drugs get metabolized. Now in the process of this oxidation, the drug generally gets converted into some reactive intermediates. So this oxidation is also not a one step reaction. There may be a number of steps of reactions which may be involved over here, and during this process of oxidation of the drug, certain reactive intermediates are formed. Okay, generally epoxides are formed as a product of the metabolism or as the intermediary substances. So these epoxides, these are highly reactive in nature. So certain reactive radicals are also formed. So these, if not further metabolized, they may interact with certain macromolecules in the body. Okay, they will either interact with certain proteins, or they may interact with certain cellular organelles, or they may even interact with the DNA. So if the DNA gets involved, okay, if there is some covalent interaction with the DNA, then it can be quite dangerous, because DNA, as we have seen under the genotoxicity and mutagenicity, that DNA is it is the function of DNA is to carry the genetic information, right? Okay, so if the DNA is damaged, then it can be quite devastating. Even chromosomes, if they are involved, if there are numerical or structural changes which take place in the chromosome, it can be quite devastating. Okay, so in case of DNAs, mutations may take place, as we have seen under mutagenicity, that some point mutations or frame shift mutations may take place, and these mutagenic changes which have taken place, or these alterations which have taken place in the DNA, these may even be passed on to the next generation. So certain heritable defects may be seen in the next generation or in the offsprings, is what we have seen. Okay, now there are certain substances which can interact with the DNA directly, so that the genetic information is altered in such a way that some kind of defects may be produced, okay, which may be resulting into cancers also sometimes, or sometimes this particular chemicals, without interacting directly with the DNA, they may produce certain malignant changes, okay, in certain cells, which may result in carcinogenesis. That is, the development of a cancer may take place. Carcinogenesis is the process of development of a cancer in the body. Okay, so certain substances may damage the DNA, or certain substances may result in carcinogenesis without even alterations in the DNA. Okay, some proliferative changes will take place and it may result in carcinogenesis. Now, usually this chemical carcinogenesis may take several years to develop, maybe 10 to 40 years to even for it to get expressed. You may have been exposed towards that particular substance for years together, and after several years that particular cancer, it may be presented in the form of tumors. Okay, so it takes several years to develop. Now let us see what exactly this cancer is. Cancer, it is not a single disease, you can say that. It is a general term which is referring to a number of types of malignant growths, okay, that may even invade the adjacent organs or adjacent tissues, or even it may spread to distant tissues also, depending upon the type of cancer which is developed. Now, basic characteristic property of this cancer is the abnormal proliferation of the cells. There is uncontrollable growth of the cells in a particular area, or in a particular tissue, or in a particular organ. Okay, so it is characterized by abnormal proliferation of the cells in that particular area. So certain cells, our normal body cells, may turn out to be cancerous in nature. So there will be uncontrollable growth or division of the cells may take place, and the number of cells may increase, or a certain size of the tissue or a size of an organ may increase. Okay. Now, depending upon the origin of this particular cancer, it is termed either as carcinomas or sarcomas. Now, if the origin of the cancer is epithelial tissue, then it is known as a carcinoma. If the origin of the cancer is supporting tissue, if the supporting tissues are affected, like say for example connective tissues or muscle tissues are involved, then it is known as a sarcoma. So accordingly these are named according to which organ or which tissue is affected and which type of tissue is involved, whether epithelial tissue. If epithelial tissues are involved, it is known as carcinoma. If supporting tissues are involved, it is known as a sarcoma. So accordingly it is named, and it is presented in the form of a cellular mass, or it is called as a tumor. So those cells which have outgrown. Okay. So the main presenting symptom of cancer is outgrowth of a particular type of cells or particular tissues, which is presented in the form of a tumor. Okay. Now these tumors may be of two types based on their characteristics, the characteristics of the cells which are present. So depending upon that, these tumors may be of two types: benign tumors and malignant tumors. Now benign tumors, these are encapsulated by the tissues, the supporting tissues, slowly growing, non-invasive in nature. Okay, that is generally they do not spread to the other areas, and they can be controlled by excisions. That is, if you remove them surgically, there are no chances of further development of the cancers. Okay. Then in case of malignant tumors, these are non-encapsulated, so they are not restricted in a particular area. Even their growth is rapid, and these are invasive in nature and disseminating. That is, they can spread, they can invade the surrounding tissue, and they can even spread to the distant areas also. Such type of tumors are known as malignant tumors, and these are recalcitrant to the treatment. That is, just like in case of benign tumors, these are controlled by excisions, but that is not the case with malignant tumors. It is not very easy to treat the malignant type of tumors wherein the spread might have taken place. So you have to be very critical in identifying the spread of this type of tumors and to treat that particular type of tumor. It is quite challenging. So these are the two types of tumors, benign tumors and the malignant tumors. The malignant tumors are quite dangerous ones as compared to the benign tumors. Now coming to the diagnosis. Okay, now diagnosis of the cancers is done by specialized techniques, and they are categorized into different stages of development. Okay, so that process is known as staging of a particular cancer. So wherein you identify the status of the cancer. Okay, so for the purpose of diagnosis and management of that particular type of cancer, you need to do the staging, identify how much is the involvement or what is the spread of that particular type of cancer. So generally it is classified into 4 stages, that is from stage 1 to stage 4, based upon the scoring system. That scoring system is known as TNM. TNM staging system is involved, or it is used generally for staging of a particular cancer. Okay, now what is the meaning of this TNM? Okay, now this T indicates the development of the cancer. What is the origin of the cancer, or how much is the involvement, or what is the size of that particular tumor. Okay, then N indicates the involvement of the lymph nodes. Okay, how much is the involvement of the lymph nodes? Okay, whether the lymph nodes are involved or no. If they are not involved, it is staged as N0, and if there is involvement of the lymph nodes in that particular area, accordingly it is numbered. Okay, N1, N2, N3 and so on. In case of even development of a tumor, if there is no evidence of tumor, it is named as T0. If there is development of a tumor, it is named as T1. Okay. In case of third letter M, it indicates the degree of metastasis. That is the degree of spread. How much of spread has taken place. Okay. Metastasis, it is the process by which the cancer spreads to the different areas. Okay, so the degree of metastasis, how much of spread of that cancer has taken place, that is indicative by the letter M. Okay, so again it is numbered. Okay, M0, M1 and so on. Okay, now say for example the tumors, these can be categorized as T0, wherein there is no evidence of tumor, to T4, where there is massive lesion with extensive invasion to the adjacent tissues. Okay, so likewise the staging of the cancers are done, and there are specific numbering which is given to the particular letter depending upon the development of the tumor or involvement of the lymph nodes and the progress of the metastasis which has taken place. Now in case of this diagnosis and staging, number of techniques are involved. Okay, some clinical, radiographic, surgical or pathological techniques are involved in the scoring, the TNM scoring, and it is identified in which stage exactly that cancer is, and accordingly the treatment is selected. Okay, now this is to do with the introduction to the cancers and the staging. Now coming to the carcinogenicity. Now let us focus on the mechanism of carcinogenicity. How exactly carcinogenicity develops. Okay, now this chemical carcinogenesis which takes place, it's not a one step process. Okay, so it involves a number of stages. It's a multi-stage process. Okay, now these carcinogenic chemicals, carcinogen is a substance which can induce the cancer or which can cause a cancer. So this carcinogenic chemicals Now, how they can result in carcinogenicity is either they can initiate some genetic changes in the cell, or they may promote the formation of a neoplasm, or converting the neoplasm into a cancer, or enhancing the activity of another chemical. They themselves may not be carcinogenic in nature, but they enhance the carcinogenicity of other substances. Okay, so a number of processes may be involved in development of a cancer. So let us see what are the steps which are involved in the carcinogenicity. So first step is the bioactivation, second one is the interaction with the macromolecules, third one is the initiation, fourth is promotion, fifth one is conversion and progression. Okay. Now this is a pictorial representation of development of a malignant tumor. So a particular cell in which the DNA might have got damaged by certain exposure to certain substances like genotoxic carcinogen or radiations, etc. So when this cell with a DNA damage, either it will start repairing itself. So whatever damage has been caused to the DNA, when it is damaged, obviously your cells will not keep quiet, they will start repairing it, right? It will try to repair. Our body, if anything is damaged, or any cell is damaged, or any organ has started to damage, your body will try to repair it itself, right? It will try to adjust the processes. Homeostasis will come into picture. So either this DNA damage which has been produced by certain substances, either it will get repaired, it will turn out to be into a normal cell, or if that particular damage it is irreparable, it may result into progression towards a cancer. That particular process is known as initiation. Some alteration has taken place which has changed certain genetic material in such a way that it will result in proliferation. Okay, so this particular normal cell, it has been converted into an initiated cell after certain changes. You can see over here, okay, some genetic changes has been caused and it is converted into an initiated cell. Further, a process called promotion may be taken place, and it may result in further development of some changes in the genetic material. Proliferation may take place. Certain types of cells may be altered. If you can see, the morphology is altered over here. You can see these two type of cells, these are different, right, from these three. Okay, so here morphological changes have taken place and some specific type of cells have outgrown now. Okay, so these are your normal cells, but what has happened? They have changed, right? There are some morphological changes which has taken place and they have outgrown now. That particular process is known as progression. Okay, now this is a schematic diagram which is explaining the development of a cancer. What are the different steps which are involved in the development of a cancer, as we have seen the 5 steps. So first one, wherein a particular chemical, it may act as a pre-carcinogen. Actually it is not a carcinogenic substance. It is not responsible for development of a cancer as such. It may get excreted with or without biotransformation. It will get excreted out, or this particular chemical may get converted into some intermediary metabolites, okay, which may get converted into reactive metabolites, and this is actually acting as ultimate carcinogen. This is the substance which is actually responsible for the development of the carcinogenicity. So there are certain substances which may require bioactivation for them to get converted into an ultimate carcinogen, which may be responsible for development of cancer. It may or may not. Okay, sometimes it may covalently bind with certain chemicals, certain endogenous substances, and it may get excreted out, or they may covalently bind to the macromolecules in the body. Okay, so once these reactive metabolites bind with certain macromolecules in the body, it will alter those macromolecules. Okay, the genetic material may be altered in these particular types of cells which are getting affected. Okay, either these may progress as it is, okay, normally, or they may repair. Okay, that particular alteration which has taken place over here by the action of these reactive metabolites, it may either get repaired and that cell may get converted into a normal cell, or it may get converted into an initiated tumor cell by the process of initiation. Okay, proliferation may take place of that particular cell which altered genetic material, and it may turn out into an initiated tumor cell, which in turn, when it is exposed to certain promoters by the process of promotion, it is known as, it gets converted into a differentiated neoplasm. And further, after specific types of cells outgrow by the process of conversion and progression, it may turn out into ultimately a cancer. So this is how the different steps are involved in development of a cancer. Okay. So coming to the first step, that is bioactivation. So there are certain substances which are inactive as such. Okay, so these carcinogenic chemicals as such per se, that is as such they are inactive, but they may undergo some bioactivation in the body to yield the reactive metabolite. Okay. One of the most common type of reactive metabolite which is generated in the body is the epoxide. Okay. So for example, aflatoxin B1, it gets converted into aflatoxin 8,9 epoxide. Okay, so it is highly reactive in nature. Similarly, benzene, vinyl chloride and a number of polycyclic hydrocarbons also form epoxide. Okay. Certain chemicals, these are bioactivated to these ultimate carcinogens by involving one more step wherein they are getting converted into intermediary carcinogen. Okay, certain intermediary steps may be involved. That is, it's not a one step bioactivation, but they may get converted into intermediary carcinogen. One more step may be, one more intermediate may be formed. Say for example, benzoapyrene. It forms benzoapyrene 7,8 epoxide, which is an intermediary carcinogen. This is not an ultimate carcinogen which will interact with the macromolecules. Okay, so it is getting converted into some intermediary substance, and this intermediary substance then gets transformed into an actual ultimate carcinogen which is interacting with the macromolecules. That is benzoapyrene 7,8 diol 9,10 epoxide. This is actually an ultimate carcinogen. Ultimate carcinogen is something which is directly responsible for the carcinogenic changes in the cell. Of course, we will see what are these different types of carcinogenic substances, okay, and how exactly and which step they are involved in. Okay, so this is the first step. Certain substances may be inactive as such, but they may require bioactivation once they are in the body. So by the process of bioactivation, they will get converted into reactive metabolites, which is mainly epoxide. Okay, so either by one step they may get converted into these epoxide or reactive metabolites, or some intermediary carcinogens are formed, which in turn will get converted into ultimate carcinogens. Okay, so this is the step which we were talking about just now. So this particular chemical, it acts as a pre-carcinogen. As such, it is not carcinogenic in nature. It cannot interact with the macromolecules unless and until it gets converted into ultimate carcinogen, that is a reactive metabolite. So either directly it will get converted, or some intermediary metabolites are formed and then they get converted into ultimate carcinogen. Then the second step which is involved is interaction with the macromolecules. So once these reactive metabolites, mostly in the form of epoxide, when these are formed, they can bind with the macromolecules in the body. Okay, so certain macromolecules which are involved, these may be protein in nature, okay, or it may be the genetic material which is affected. Okay, so if it is proteins which is involved, it may not develop into a cancer, may or may not. Okay? But if DNA is getting affected, that is, if your ultimate carcinogen interacts with the DNA, there may be mutations which may take place or some lesions which may take place. Okay. So either these particular alterations in your genetic material, these may be repaired or it may progress to further steps. Okay. So after covalent binding to the macromolecules, your macromolecules, which may be a protein or which may be a DNA or the genetic material, if the alteration in the genetic material takes place, it may be either repaired, a cell may turn out to be a normal cell, or there may be certain further processes which may take place, okay, wherein the cells will start dividing and it gets converted into an initiated tumor cell. So next step involved is the initiation. Okay, so first step was bioactivation of your carcinogen. If it is not a direct if it is not an ultimate carcinogen, it needs bioactivation in the body. Second step is the interaction with the macromolecules. So once the macromolecules are interacted with by your carcinogen, a process called initiation may be instituted. Okay, so if the cell's DNA is altered and if it undergoes mitosis, that is cell division, if it takes place, this alterations which are taking place in your DNA, it may be retained. Okay, and that cell will with the altered DNA, it will start dividing, and that particular cell with altered DNA which is not repaired, okay, which cannot be repaired. Okay, if it is repaired, it will go or it will turn out to be a normal cell. Okay, but if it is an irreparable change which has taken place, and if the cell starts dividing mitotically, it gets converted into an initiated cell. Okay, now this is the step. Okay, so if this cell with altered macromolecule, it starts replicating, or if it starts dividing, it will turn out to be an initiated tumor cells. So it has retained the genetic changes which has been instituted over here by interaction of your ultimate carcinogen with the macromolecules of the body. So it has turned out to be an initiated tumor cells by the process of initiation. Okay. Now, what are these genetic changes which may be responsible for development of the carcinogenesis? There are two main processes which may involved over here. The first one is the activation of proto-oncogenes to oncogenes. Okay, so DNA, they contain different genes, right, which will code for certain processes or certain proteins. Okay, now in our genetic material, there are certain genes called as proto-oncogenes. So proto-oncogenes are those genes which normally control the cell division and apoptosis or differentiation of different types of cells. Okay. Now in this process of initiation, certain genetic material may be damaged in such a way that these proto-oncogenes, which control the normal proliferation or cell division or differentiation, so these proto-oncogenes get converted into something called as oncogenes. Okay. Now oncogenes are those which can induce the malignant changes and which are actually responsible for development of the carcinogenesis. Okay. So if these proto-oncogenes get converted into oncogenes by either certain viruses or carcinogens, then it can result in carcinogenesis. So this is one type of genetic change which may take place, which may be responsible for development of carcinogenesis. The second type of genetic change is the inactivation of the tumor suppressor genes. Now there is one more type of gene called as tumor suppressor gene, or it is also known as anti-oncogenes. These are the types of genes which generally suppresses the malignant changes. Okay, tumor suppressor gene, as the name implies, it prevents the development of the tumors. Okay, so it suppresses the development of the tumors. So in presence of these genes, it will prevent the proliferative changes or the malignant changes in that particular cell. Now supposing if these anti-oncogenes are affected, or if these are damaged, or if these are mutated, so that their function is lost. What is their function? To keep the malignant changes suppressed. So if they lose their function, if these tumor suppressor genes lose their function, what will happen? It will result in the proliferation of the cell. Okay, tumors will start develop. Okay, so these are the two basic changes in the genetic material which take place. Either activation of proto-oncogenes to oncogenes, which is ultimately responsible for the malignant changes, or the suppression of the tumor suppressor genes, or the inactivation of the tumor suppressor gene, which keeps the tumors suppressed. Okay, so both of these controlling factors are lost, and that's why the carcinogenesis may develop. Okay, so after initiation, the next step is the promotion. Okay, so the initiated tumor cell, which may be having altered genotype or phenotype, so these may either remain dormant for a long time. Okay, for some time it may remain dormant. Okay, I told you that cancers, they don't develop very quickly, they take years together. Okay, because these initiated tumor cells, they may remain dormant for quite a long period of time before they may get activated for further step of cell proliferation when they are exposed to promoters. Okay, so once they are converted to initiated tumor cells, that's not the end of it. They need to be exposed to certain promoters which may further develop the neoplasm. The cell will become neoplastic in nature. Now, why these cells remain dormant is because of some suppressant influences by the surrounding normal cells. Okay, so this particular influence may be reduced by over a period of time by programmed cell death. These may die. Okay, apoptosis is the process by which the cell dies, right? It's a programmed cell death, or cell killing from certain cytotoxic chemicals, or some cells may be removed, partial hepatectomy, wherein the part of the liver may be removed. Okay, so these suppressive factors which are present, which keep this particular initiated tumor cells dormant, these are removed. Growth factors or some certain other factors. So these particular influences may remove this dormancy, which is keeping these initiated tumor cells suppressed. So that particular suppressing factor is removed. Okay, and it may be promoted towards development of a cancerous cell or the neoplastic cell. Okay, this process of initiation which we have seen, which is the third step, it's actually a permanent process. So once a cell gets converted into an initiated tumor cells, it is not reversible. That particular process is a permanent one. Whereas promotion, which is the next step, wherein the initiated tumor cells get converted into neoplastic cell, this is not a permanent process. It is reversible in nature. Okay, it's not necessary that always once the promotion takes place, it will ultimately result into cancer. These particular processes even reversible. Okay, so for an initiated cell to continuously replicate, it must be exposed to certain promoters continuously, more or less continuously. Then it will get converted into the next type of cell, that is differentiated neoplasm, by the process of promotion. Okay, and the next step involved is conversion and progression. Okay, so after promotion, wherein certain chemicals, when it is exposed to your initiated tumor cells, it will start converting them into the neoplastic cells. So these neoplastic cells, these by the process of conversion and progression will get converted into a cancer. Now in this process, the last step of development of carcinogenicity, that is conversion and progression, it is characterized by the biochemical and morphological changes which may take place in the cell. Now exact mechanism of this is not known, but it may be initiated by exposure to certain clastrogenic agent or complete carcinogens. So when it is exposed to certain substances, it may promote into differentiation into certain specific morphological changes in that particular cell, and the neoplastic cell, it will get converted into a cancerous cell. Okay, so here the neoplasm which is developed, it may get converted into either a benign or a malignant tumor. The initiation, as we have seen, initiation, it is a permanent process. So likewise, this particular step of progression is also an irreversible process. Okay, so once it has progressed and it has developed into a cancerous cell, that process is an irreversible process. Okay, so that's the last step involved in the development of a cancer. That is, differentiated neoplasm will get converted into cancer cells upon exposure to certain type of substances. In the process of conversion and progression, which is an irreversible process, it gets converted into cancerous cell wherein there is morphological changes in that particular cell and it will start proliferating. Okay, so this is how the cancer is developed, or this is the mechanism of carcinogenicity. Now let us see what are those different types of substances which are responsible for development of carcinogenicity. Okay. So such substances are known as carcinogens. So carcinogen, it is a substance or radionuclide or a radiation that promotes the carcinogenesis, that is the formation of cancer. Now these carcinogens, these are divided into two types of carcinogens depending upon the mode of action, how exactly they are inducing the carcinogenicity. So depending upon that, these are of two types, genotoxic carcinogen, and the second type is non-genotoxic carcinogen. Okay, coming to the first type, that is genotoxic carcinogen. So as the name implies, genotoxic. Okay, what do you mean by genotoxicity? It is the ability of any particular substance to cause damage to the genetic material, right? So here these type of carcinogens are genotoxic in nature. Okay, so these genotoxic carcinogens, they initiate a tumor by producing DNA damage. They will cause damage to the genetic material. That's how they will initiate a tumor. Okay, now again these genotoxic carcinogens are of two types, direct acting carcinogens and the second one is precarcinogens. Okay, so coming to the first one, that is direct acting carcinogens. So these are also known as ultimate carcinogens. So as we have seen under the introduction or in the mechanism of carcinogenicity, there are certain substances which are directly responsible for development of the carcinogenicity. Okay, so such type of substances are known as ultimate carcinogen. They themselves can interact with the macromolecules as such directly without the requirement of the bioactivation. We have seen the first step is bioactivation. So that is applicable to those substances which are inactive as such. They need to be get converted into the ultimate carcinogen. Okay, but these are the types of substances which are ultimate carcinogen, that is, they directly can interact with the macromolecule. So these are electrophilic in nature and they can bind to the DNA or certain other macromolecules without the need of bioactivation. Directly they will interact with the macromolecules. The examples of such substances involve the alkyl and aryl epoxides, lactones, sulfate esters, nitrosamide, nitrosourea, platinum amine chelates, etc. Okay, so these particular substances are examples of direct acting carcinogens or ultimate carcinogens, which can directly interact with the macromolecules without the need of bioactivation, which is the first step in the development of the carcinogenicity. Then the second type of genotoxic carcinogens is the precarcinogen. Okay, so precarcinogen, these are also known as procarcinogens. Okay, so as the name implies, these are the substances which require to be converted into the ultimate carcinogens. Okay, so by the process of bioactivation, they need to be converted into ultimate carcinogen. As such, they are not carcinogenic in nature. Okay, so either directly by bioactivation, by one step reaction, they may get converted into ultimate carcinogen, or via some intermediary stages. As we have seen, some intermediary carcinogen may also be formed, as in the case of epoxides, as we have seen. Okay, so proximate carcinogens, either they are formed or directly they may get converted into ultimate carcinogen. Okay, and this is the type of most of the prevalent type of chemical carcinogens. Okay, these are the pre-carcinogens. They need bioactivation into certain substances, and that ultimate carcinogen which is formed, that is actually responsible for the carcinogenicity. Okay, so some of the examples are quoted over here. These include the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAH, or aromatic amines, halogenated hydrocarbons, nitrosamines, aflatoxin B, and so on. Okay, so there are so many examples of pre-carcinogens which need bioactivation. Now, there are different types of bioactivation which may take place. Say formation of epoxide, which is quite common, or N-hydroxy derivatives are formed, which may be ultimately acting as the ultimate carcinogen. Okay, so direct acting agents are generated. These are converted to direct acting agents. Okay, so these particular chemicals may also activate proto-oncogenes to oncogene, as we have seen the changes in the genetic material, or they may also inactivate the oncosuppressor genes. So these could be the mechanisms by which they could initiate the process of carcinogenicity. Then the second type of carcinogens are non-genotoxic carcinogen. The first one was genotoxic carcinogen. The second type is the non-genotoxic carcinogen. Okay, so these particular substances, as the name implies, these do not damage the DNA but enhance the growth of the tumors. Okay, maybe which is induced by genotoxic carcinogens, or these may induce the tumors, the growth of the tumors by certain other mechanisms. So there are 5 types of non-genotoxic carcinogens. These involve co-carcinogens, promoters, solid state carcinogens, metals and metalloids, and secondary carcinogens. Now coming to the first one, that is co-carcinogen. Okay, now these particular substances, these are enhancing the effects of the genotoxic carcinogen when they are given along with the genotoxic carcinogen. Okay, so as such, they may not be responsible for development of cancer. Okay, but they enhance the action of some other carcinogens. So that's why they are known as co-carcinogens. So in presence of these co-carcinogens, these genotoxic carcinogens are promoted. Okay, so their carcinogenicity is promoted. Okay, so how these are exactly promoting the carcinogenesis by the other substances? So either they can increase the concentration of these initiators, okay, that is the genotoxic carcinogen itself, or the reactive metabolite which is produced. So they will promote the formation of these reactive metabolites. So either how they will increase this concentration, either by increasing the absorption of that carcinogen, or by increasing the bioactivation to the reactive metabolites. So these are the processes by which it can enhance the concentration of this carcinogenic or ultimate carcinogen at that particular site. This is also achieved by decrease in the elimination of that particular initiator, which is responsible for development of carcinogenesis. Either it will inhibit the enzymes which are responsible for detoxification, or it may deplete the endogenous substrates which are involved in the metabolism phase 2 reaction, maybe glutathione. These epoxides, these are generally further metabolized. They are converted into the inactive metabolites by conjugation with glutathione. That's a minor process of metabolism, phase 2 reaction, but it is quite important because it is important in inactivating the epoxide or reactive metabolites which are formed. Okay, so availability of glutathione can be reduced. So that's how it will enhance the action of the epoxides. Okay, so either by increasing the absorption or by increasing the bioactivation or by decreasing their elimination, that is either excretion or metabolism, it can be inhibited, as a result of which the concentration of that reactive species will be enhanced at the site of action. Okay, so this is one of the mechanism by which co-carcinogen will promote the ultimate carcinogenic activity of the ultimate carcinogen. Now, apart from this increase in the concentration of these reactive species at the site of action, the co-carcinogen may also inhibit the rate or fidelity of the DNA repair. Okay, so if certain carcinogens, if they damage the DNA, it can be repaired, right? Okay, so this process of DNA repair can also be inhibited by certain co-carcinogens. So that's how again they will promote the carcinogenicity. Or they may even enhance the conversion of DNA lesions to permanent alterations, so that ultimately the carcinogenesis is promoted. So themselves they are not actually initiating the carcinogenesis, but they are producing certain circumstances which are promoting carcinogenesis. Okay. Say for example, tobacco smoke, it contains certain genotoxic carcinogens such as PAH or nitrosamine. Okay, but its main carcinogenic effect, it is mainly due to the catecholamines acting as co-carcinogens. Okay, so that is actually promoting the carcinogenicity of these basic genotoxic carcinogens. Okay, so co-carcinogens also play a very important role in promoting the cancers, okay, or carcinogenicity. Then the next type of non-genotoxic carcinogen is promoter. Okay, as we have seen in the process of promotion, okay, there is a requirement that the initiated cells, if they are exposed to the promoters, okay, it may progress to a neoplastic cell. Okay, so these promoters can also be responsible in progression of the carcinogenicity. Now, the possible mechanism of action by which these promoters enhance the effects of the initiators, these include either the proliferation of the cells may be stimulated, okay, through either cytotoxicity or hormonal effects, or some intracellular communication may be inhibited, okay, or immunosuppression. So these could be the possible mechanisms by which these promoters will enhance the further proliferation, okay, into neoplastic cell. These are some of the examples which are quoted over here. Cytotoxicants like nitrilotriacetic acid, it acts by cell proliferation. Hormones such as estradiol, diethylstilbestrol, these act as promoters, or certain immunosuppressive drugs like cyclosporin A, azathioprine, these are also acting by non-genotoxic mechanism. Certain hypolipidemic drugs like clofebrate or fenofibrate, certain phthalates plasticizers, or certain solvents like 1,1,2-trichloroethylene, these may increase the number of peroxisomes. Okay, they may even increase the formation of hydrogen peroxide, leading to the formation of reactive oxygen species. So this is how they are promoting the interaction with the macromolecules and cellular proliferation. Okay, so they act as promoters. Then next type of non-genotoxic carcinogens are solid state carcinogens. Examples of these include asbestos, okay, or implanted materials like plastics, metals or glass. Okay, so these substances actually, these are not genotoxic, but they produce the tumors of mesenchymal origin. Okay, actually as such the mechanism of action, the precise mechanism of action is not known, but the tumor, it is preceded by the foreign body reaction. These include hyperplastic fibrosis. Okay, so these may result in the change of the normal cells to the neoplastic cells. Then next type of non-genotoxic carcinogen is metals and metalloids, like say for example arsenic, cadmium, chromium, nickel and their compounds. These are carcinogenic in humans. These are reported to be carcinogenic in humans. Even there are certain others like beryllium, cobalt and lead. These have been found to be carcinogenic in animals. Okay. Then the next type of carcinogen, non-genotoxic carcinogen, is secondary carcinogens. So this particular carcinogens, these are known as secondary carcinogens because these are not directly carcinogenic, but they can induce the cancer after a non-carcinogenic effect. Okay, so they will produce some alterations, some physiological alterations will take place or some change will take place which may be ultimately responsible for development of a cancer. Say for example polyoxyethylene monostearate, at very high concentration it will elicit actually bladder stones. It's not carcinogenic in nature, it's not a ultimate carcinogen, but what it is promoting, it is developing bladder stones which in turn may cause bladder tumors. Okay. On the other hand, this particular term also is used to reflect the genotoxic carcinogens which require bioactivation. So as such they are not carcinogenic in nature, but they get converted to certain other intermediary substances or ultimate carcinogen and then they are responsible for carcinogenicity. Okay. Now this is to do with the examples of carcinogens, okay, or the different types of carcinogens. Now this is the classification, the chemical classification of carcinogens. It is basically divided into 5 categories by EPA and IARC depending upon the data which is obtained from the human beings, effects in the human beings or the animal data. So these have been categorized. Okay, so in IARC system numbering is given 1, 2, 2A, 2B, 3 and 4. Okay, so it is categorized into 5 types, and according to EPA these is again categorized into 5 types, and it letter is denoted over here as A, B1 or B2 or C, D and E. Okay. Then coming to the some of the examples of human carcinogens along with the target organs, which organs exactly are affected or carcinogenicity is developed in which particular organs or tissues. Say in case of dietary and lifestyle, okay, aflatoxin, it may result in liver cancer, liver may get affected. Alcoholic beverages, either pharynx, esophagus, liver, larynx, oral cavity. Brittle chewing, mouth or pharynx, larynx may be affected. Tobacco smoke, again it is affecting so many organs. There are certain industrial and environmental carcinogens also which are known reportedly. These are arsenic or asbestosis are quite common, benzene, benzidine, cadmium, wood dust responsible for nasal sinus. Then certain manufacturing processes may involve certain exposure to the chemicals which may be carcinogenic in nature. Say in case of aluminium production industries, okay, lung or bladder cancer, okay, then boot, shoe manufacture, nasal cavity or hematopoietic system may be involved, okay, or say paint industries, lung cancer may be developed, rubber industry, bladder, hematopoietic system may be involved, and so on. Then there are certain drugs also which are responsible for carcinogenicity, that is azathioprine. It may result in lymph node or skin cancer. Cyclophosphamide, bladder or bone marrow may be involved. Estrogen, cervix, uterus or breast may be involved. Phenacetin, renal pelvis may be involved, okay, and so on. Okay, so these are the different examples of different carcinogens and the organs which are involved. Thank you.